Welcome to the For the Love of Language podcast. I'm EJ.
And I'm Stacy. Hello, everybody.
And today we're going to talk about debate, argumentation, rhetoric.
Yeah. We're keeping it kind of open and loose for this first episode, but we're considering diving into some more specific topics a little bit down the line. So we're going to just kind of do a little overview of some of our initial thoughts and see where the conversation takes us. And then we can get into some more specifics in another episode and get into some of the nitty-gritties.
Right, yeah, because this is a huge topic.
It is.
So we're going to kind of do an overview. I don't want to say superficial, because we'll probably dive into some examples.
We will. We 100% will, because
we
always go on tangents, so we get, yeah.
All right, so let's just, kind of define the topic a little bit better. I think the commonality in debate, argumentation, rhetoric, you're trying to persuade someone else of your point of view.
Yes. So we had a whole episode about questions, which was really great. And questions are a great way to kind of spread information. But argumentation and debate and convincing of someone else of your point is kind of just the next logical step of if I'm going to share information, maybe that information is contested, and how am I going to get somebody to think what I think is correct or follow what I want to do. It's kind of the result of living in group dynamics of we have to make decisions and we all have different opinions. So how are we going to figure out who does what?
Exactly. So, Stacy, if you were to try to convince me of something, what would be your approach?
Oh, me personally?
Yeah, let's say you wanted to convince me of something absolutely absurd, like the sky right now is orange, even though it's blue. What would be your approach?
Well, without resorting to gaslighting, another great episode that we did.
That's true.
we have to be mindful that argumentation is different from gaslighting. So argumentation, I would say something of instead of trying to argue that the sky is currently orange, I would try and lead you in the direction of the sky may be blue right now, but it has the potential to become orange, and it will become orange later in the day. So just because you think it's blue now doesn't mean that it's always blue. There are situations where it is orange, and those are 100% factual, true, very real things that happen, and I would use different facts and different elements about the world around us. I'm a very, I don't want to say a passive person who argues things, but I am more of a I'm just going to give you the facts. I'm just going to present all of the information to you as much as I know, and then let you decide for yourself.
So you're very much of a logical arguer, not so much of an emotional one. You're just looking for the truths and trying to tie those into the current situation.
Yes. I'm not going to try and appeal to your child's favorite color is orange and the sky is orange, and so you should definitely believe that the sky is orange because it's your child's favorite color or something. I don't even know. Trying to appeal to something baser, more emotional. That's not my vibe. I've never done that.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think a lot of people resort to either logic or emotion when they're trying to make arguments. I personally also tend to default to the logic side, and even my son does. It's really cute. My son has type 1 diabetes, and so we have to switch out his insulin pumps and his continuous glucose monitors pretty frequently, every few days. And he responds really well to logic. Yeah. So when I explain to him, we need to change your pump and this is why, he responds much better to that than to it's time to change your pump, let's go.
Yes.
But having the reason behind it, the logic, and being able to cognitively understand it is, he's small, so
Yes.
he doesn't always accept that. But that's usually what will get him on the same page.
Yeah. I do want to say we're both kind of making a great point for, like, logical argumentation, but there is something to be said about those who can, like, use more emotional tactics to get you to think or feel a certain way. My sister, for example, is fantastic at this. She knows exactly which buttons to press, exactly which words to use that will make you feel something. And it doesn't, and the feeling that you're having doesn't even have to be related to the actual topic, but the fact that you're feeling something all of a sudden changes the dynamic of, like, oh, I'm going to say something like this, and because I phrased it this way, it's gonna make you a little bit, like, angry or upset, and all of a sudden, that is something that I can use against you, or show that, like, oh, I know what I'm doing here because I'm able to keep control of this conversation while you're having a strong emotion. And there is a skill to that like, I don't like it. I hate it personally, especially when it's used against me, and I'm like, I don't like it when someone pushes my buttons to try and make a point. But there is definitely skill and tact to it, and it does work, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think it's always unfortunate either. Like,
That's fair.
I think that the best arguments use both logic and emotion. Like, if you're thinking of the best public speakers, before they get into their actual content of their talk, they'll crack a couple jokes. They'll say something catching to get the audience listening. Yeah. Because if the audience isn't emotionally engaged, why are they going to care or listen anyways? True. So you need to build some kind of emotional caring, some kind of emotional interest in order for your logic to actually matter. Because if people aren't listening, if they're not actually caring, then it won't matter if your logic is perfect and if what you're speaking is an absolute truth based on valid syllogisms. I'll define that in a minute. They need to care first. Yes. But if your logic is only based on emotion, then that's also not going to carry the same weight and last the same way, most likely.
I mean, it might carry differently, because we all know that there's, like, very charismatic people out there who spew absolute bullshit, but they can get away with it because they have that charm and that charisma, and they can appeal to your emotions so much so that you're not even considering what they're saying. And in a logical way. And
I would say that there's a lot of our political discourse now that people are so emotionally fired up about their particular side that they won't actually even listen to what the opponent is saying. Oh, 100%. So if you take, for example, let's say abortion, right? The moment that somebody even brings up the topic, it doesn't matter what side they're on, everybody gets super emotional about their side because the way that they view it, and also the straw man that they've built of the other side. So, and a straw man is a logical fallacy. That's when you're building up your opponent into something that they don't actually represent. Yes. And so saying that, like, Republicans are baby killers, that's a straw man. Like, that's not actually what Republicans are arguing for. I might have just swapped them.
I think you did swap them. I meant to say
that. I'm so bad at politics.
It's okay.
So saying that Democrats are baby killers instead of, like, actually representing their point of view the way that they want to be represented, that's building up a straw man. Yes. Or saying that Republicans don't care about the mother and don't care about her free will, that's also building up a straw man, right? So regardless of the side, people have just built up these emotions, so they're not actually willing to then discuss the issue.
Yep, exactly. It's, like, good argumentation. Okay, let's take a step back for a second, because I started a thought and I'm like, no, I want to backtrack it a little bit. There's a very, especially in, like, Western culture in Europe and in America, and it might be different in other places, and we're going to speak to kind of, like, the cultural relativism of argumentation in another episode. But there is this, like, idea of being prepared for a debate, having, like, all of this information and all of this knowledge, like, ready to go, so you can kind of, like, lock and load it and fire it out. And there's a very, like, combative essence to argumentation in, like, the West of, like, in, like you said, like, using all of these logical fallacies and emotion and all of these other elements. That's part of what makes you, like, a good debater or a good argument, like, a good argumentator, like, is if you can use all of the tools and get away with it in such a way that, like, you end up looking like you're in control or whatnot. Does this make sense? What I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so. Like, there's this idea that regardless of the method that you're using, you're effectively getting your point across.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't going to be looking into the nuance of the delivery of that message in a super, super deep way. Like, people will be critical of how it's said, some people more than others.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, is it more important how the message is delivered or that the message is delivered and received?
Exactly. And that's like a very interesting aspect to argumentation that I've just noticed more and more these days, especially with things like TikTok and podcasts and, like, all these different things that have allowed us to kind of, like, facilitate more of these discussions and arguments and things like that. I feel like there's a lot more like pressure to just talk about it.
Definitely.
Even if like it does, and it doesn't matter how you're talking about it, but just getting big, getting loud, getting vocal seems to be, like, a priority these days.
Well, and if you're talking about social media, everyone has an audience. Even if it's just your family, everybody has an audience. And the pro and con to that is that there are experts who have really solid audiences, but there's also people who aren't experts, but who are really good arguers, really good presenters who have audiences.
Yes.
And so you do need to be critical of, like, where's your information coming from? Is this someone who actually knows something? Is this someone who's, like, citing experts, which can be just as good, right?
Yeah.
Or is it someone who's just saying their own opinions or spouting off things, citing people who aren't experts or who haven't actually done their research?
Yeah.
So knowing the source of the information, I think, is definitely important. Should we dive into a couple of the specifics inside of logical and emotional argumentation? Like I mentioned syllogisms.
Yes. Let's talk a little bit about that. And maybe we can save this for another episode. I think it'd be fun to discuss a bunch of the different logical fallacies out there.
Absolutely.
Those are fun to talk about. But that's a whole other topic. We can talk about that. But yes, let's dive a little bit more into.
Yes. So let's talk about what a syllogism is. So a syllogism is a logical argument where you have something embedded in the meaning of a sentence. So in linguistics, we call that an entailment. If something is entailed by what you say, like if I say, those are my dogs, in the meaning of that is that they are dogs, they are mine, and everything that is involved in what a dog is, the fact that it has fur, the fact of everything there is entailed in that sentence. Versus if something is implied, then you're not actually directly saying it. It's not like part of the definition of the words that you're saying. There's a difference there.
Yes. So like you could say, instead of those are my dogs, you could say there are dogs in my house. That's not directly saying that the dogs belong to me.
In fact, it might imply that they don't.
It might imply that they don't. Because,
weird to say it that way.
Yes, it is kind of weird to say that. But there is this question mark of like, okay, well, there's dogs in my house, but whose dogs are they? Are they my dogs? Are they my friend's dogs? Are they exactly?
Right. Or if I were to say, oh, this is my first son.
Yes.
It's technically true, and it entails that my child is my first son.
Yes.
However, it also implies that I have more children, or why would I have specified that it's my first?
Exactly.
And that is not true.
Yes.
So that's the difference between an implication and an entailment.
Yes.
And that matters in a syllogism because syllogisms are built on entailments, on the actual definition and true meaning, like you could say the semantics of the words.
Yes.
So a syllogism, usually you'll have two statements. one following the other, and the entailments of those two statements combined logically lead to a third statement in a way that it proves it to be true.
Yes.
Right?
Much like a proof in mathematics.
Yeah.
Of like, this equation and this equation, therefore this equation.
Yeah. So to give an example with one of my dogs again.
They're just right here and they look so cute.
Right. They're laying on my kitchen floor just being chill, which
they're being so good.
I appreciate. But if I say, Juno is my dog, and that is my first statement. And then my second statement is, all dogs have 4 legs.
Yes.
And we accept that as a universal truth, and that's my second statement.
Yes.
Now, I know, obviously, there's some dogs that don't. But for the sake of the argument, Juno is my dog, all dogs have 4 legs. The logical conclusion from that statement, and that would make this a valid syllogism, would be to say, Juno has 4 legs. Because I said, which is true, right? It is part of the definition of a dog that they have 4 legs, and I said, Juno is my dog, therefore, Juno has 4 legs. That's an example of a syllogism.
Yes, yes. Very good, very good, very good. Yes, the syllogisms are really great, and it would be wonderful if everything worked that way.
If only. But even in that example, right, there's some complexity that goes in. Like, are you taking into account outliers and the fact that, okay, this dog got into an accident and only has 3 legs? Are we accounting for that part of the dog population? And that's where debate can get really intricate, and where people's perspectives get more interesting.
Exactly. Is in those happy little nuances, those gray areas, those outliers, like you said, of like, what if this was a little bit different? Right. Because to state something as an absolute truth is like a big thing. Like, you have to be pretty confident about that. Right. But there's still some room for like, okay, but like, what if this, or what about that? You know, like, to say that like the speed of gravity, or however that it works, like gravity is a constant, even that I'm sure is like, well, the constant of gravity is going to be different if you're closer to the equator versus if you're near the poles, and how that's going to work or whatnot. And so it's like, even having a broad basic truth is still going to have some of those like nuances. And so all of these little syllogisms and things like that, there's definitely always going to be like a hidden ambiguity that people will kind of find out or pick through. We love picking through things as people.
Right. Do you want to give one more example of a different syllogism?
Ooh, let's see if I can think of one right now. Let's see if my brain is working. Okay. Let's say, we were talking about the sky. We can say that it is 12 p.m. and the sky is blue. Okay, so it's 12 p.m. and the sky is blue. And we can say that sometimes there are clouds in the sky. So maybe this will work. I don't know if this will work. So therefore, there are probably clouds in the sky.
That is a good example of an invalid syllogism.
There you go. Right? Perfect. I'm glad I did the wrong version so we could see how to not do it.
Right, because you said, okay, at 12, the sky is blue. Like, that's just a statement about this specific moment in time, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes there are clouds in the sky. Okay, so that means it's a possibility that there are clouds.
True, yes.
But then in your conclusion, you said that means there's probably clouds in the sky. And there was nothing about the previous statements that said correct, that there would probably be clouds there. You could say that, you know, it's possible at this point. So if I were to take that example, let me see if I can
fix
turn
it for me, EJ. My brain is not working. I was up late last night.
Yeah. I mean, so you could say, as I'm also thinking off the fly here, but you could say the sky is blue. Mm-hmm. When the sky is blue, it means there are no clouds.
Okay, there we go.
Therefore, there are no clouds in the sky, right? Because right now it's blue. When it's blue, there's no clouds. So now there's no clouds in the sky.
There you go.
Then you have a valid syllogism. But it gets really complicated and really nuanced, especially if you're thinking on the spot. And so just because
you put me on the spot and I'm like, oh no.
But people do that in debates all the time. They'll say
some people are really good at it.
Right, and just because someone is saying 1 + 1 = 3 and are very adamant about it and saying this and this, therefore this, doesn't mean that it's true. And I see this in Facebook posts all the time, especially the ones that are copy this and paste it on your wall. Yeah. A lot of the time, there's invalid logic in there that doesn't actually follow through. And so you want to be careful about things that you're, reposting and saying as well to see if it actually makes sense and if it actually is your perspective and something that you want to share with the world.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely with so many opinions out there, it is trickier and trickier to find good, confident sources, especially just on social media in general, I feel. Just because they're on an Instagram post, you don't have to cite your sources.
Unfortunately.
There is nothing telling you that you have to do that.
Oh my gosh. I hate it. I hate it when people post something and then, as if it makes it better to plagiarize what they're posting, say, I don't own this thing. And it's that didn't actually give any attribution to the author.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you're accomplishing by that. You should post things when you know the author. And that's where the copy-paste thing bothers me as well. If you want to repost someone's stuff, click the share button on their thing so people can
so then their name pops up with it.
Yeah, and then people can actually go to the source instead of you just doing this copy-paste of what, a spammer or a 9-year-old might have written, right?
There's some prolific 9-year-olds out there, let me tell you.
I don't know. I have opinions.
I got opinions too. We all got opinions. And we are enabled more and more these days to share them, including you and I. Look, we're making a podcast where we share our opinions with a bunch of people.
But we also do try and put in good things that we've learned from our linguistics classes because we both do have linguistics degrees, backgrounds.
We are experts.
In a way, at least.
Yes.
And we try to acknowledge that we're not.
Yes, we do. Which I hope gets through.
Yes.
Don't take all of our words for a fact, please.
Right.
Some of my thoughts are definitely just my thoughts.
Yeah, well, and you can always do your own research as well. And when
I hope we always try to encourage that.
Yeah, and when we do cite actual sources of things that we just don't know just off the bat or from the courses that we've taken, I do generally try and put the book or the website or whatever it is in the comments or the podcast description as well.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that's actually a pretty good kind of overview of argumentation. We touched how it can be logical or emotional and dived into some of the nuance there. I think we will absolutely come back to logical fallacies and implicatures and some other things.
Yes. Implicatures get fun.
They get real fun. But yeah, please follow us on Instagram at For the Love of Language. We would love to hear from you, what you think about our podcast, any topics you'd like us to cover. We're just doing this for fun and to share about something that we love, and we'd love to know how it's impacting you.
Yes, feel free to share. We like sharing. Sharing is caring.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Bye.